Well, good afternoon. Thank you all for being here this afternoon. As you've learned in the first 3 or 4 months here, I don't call press conferences a lot. And I do that because I want to make sure when we do call them that there's items of significant value. And I think today is one of those days. So I appreciate you being here. And what I want to do is spend a little time talking about the framework by which we're going to be leading the city for the next several years. So important topic today. And the reason we're doing this today is we just got done having what we called one-team meetings with our city employees. We invited all 1,200 employees to the Orpheum Theater. We had 2 meetings. From what I'm told, both meetings, the largest attendance they've ever had at city meetings for something like this. And so a lot of excitement right now around some of the stuff we're doing and some of the initiatives we're moving forward. And part of it was also to explain to the city, hey, where is the city going to be moving in the next several years? And what are the initiatives that are going to be important to our administration? So kind of to step back about a year ago into campaign mode, obviously when you're campaigning to run a race like this and to get in office, you hear a lot from constituents and you hear a lot from voters and you hear a lot about what they're concerned about. And so you campaign on those. And when you get into office, sometimes reality is a little bit different. Well, what I've found through the first 4 months is the same things that the citizens are concerned about is the exact same things that our employees are concerned about. So actually, I polled all of our employees. We did a survey. We started to ask them some questions and get them bought into a process. And what you're seeing today is the result of that. And it's a framework that we're calling One Sioux Falls. And One Sioux Falls meaning a few different things. One Sioux Falls meaning our 12 city departments working together as one. One Sioux Falls meaning our city of Sioux Falls government working with Lincoln County, Minnehaha County, with our school district, with Brandon, with Hartford, with Harrisburg, with T. And One Sioux Falls meaning a shared vision that we can all work towards to move the city together. And there's really 4 main components of this vision. And I want to reinforce that these came about from our employees, from our city directors, from constituents, from citizens, and then from my administration. And we were really lucky to have a vision that actually dovetailed with one another. Every one of those groups that I just mentioned all sees the same challenges for the city. And so the 4 areas that you're going to see our administration talking a lot about in the next 4 years and crafting almost all of our initiatives around are going to fall into one of these 4 camps. The first one being safety and health. And you've heard me talk a lot about narcotics and the challenges with narcotics and behavioral health and some of those issues. We want to ensure that the well-being of the Sioux Falls citizen is above the national average. We want to be bucking the trend in terms of narcotics activity. We want to be doing innovative things in terms of community triage centers and the way we're looking at addiction and behavioral health challenges and so forth. And so safety and health is going to be a real big focus. And you know that already, but what's going to be unique about this is that there's going to be sub-bullets, sub-goals, strategies under there that are going to be department-driven, that are going to have measurable tactics, metrics, goals that these departments and our employees are going to be held accountable to the taxpayer. So it's one thing just to say, we need to reduce the narcotics challenges in our city. Well, how do we know if we're moving the needle on that? And a phrase I use a lot, and the employees heard me use it today, is if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. So we are going to look for measurable outcomes for all of these key areas. The second area is an area which we're going to call accessible housing. Affordable housing, unfortunately, has kind of got a negative stereotype to it. That term has evolved over the years to mean low-income housing, housing for people with low incomes who don't make a fair wage, for the poor, the downtrodden. That's not what we want to focus on. We want to focus on accessible housing for the working class family, no matter what income level you're at. And so housing that's accessible to someone making $12 an hour who has $500 a month and who needs housing that's accessible to them, to the person who is in a $180,000 house and wants to move up to a $250,000 house and needs an accessible house that's open to them. So ensuring we're working with our home builders and our development industry to make sure we're meeting that demand. One of the challenges and also one of the opportunities in Sioux Falls is we really see demands for housing at a lot of different levels in our city. And it's going to be one tangible metric that we're going to try and deploy over the next 4 years to ensure that our housing stock for that $400 to $800 a month range keeps up with our population growth. And right now there's been an increasing chasm that we're seeing where our population is growing and that stock isn't growing at the appropriate pace. And that's creating a shortage in that specific example. So accessible housing, you'll probably still hear us use Freudian slips and call it affordable housing, but I want to encourage us to move away from that term and start calling it accessible housing, which I think is a more palatable term to all those in our community, working families included, who need housing. Third area is workforce. What do we do as a city to ensure that our workforce remains one of the most competitive, growing, thriving workforces in the country? Now, 2.4% unemployment is our most recent number, and we have a decreasing, what we call a fertility rate in the U.S., where people are having less children, and that's been on decline for a long time. And so our workforce challenge, this isn't a short-term challenge, this is a long-term adjustment we're having to make as a city, as less and less people are available to work. So what can we do as a city? We can invest in things like our River Greenway, phase 3 of that. We can ensure we're doing all we can to get a 5G network here in Sioux Falls by 2020, to be one of the first cities of our size with 5G connectivity to recruit people who want to come and work in a city that has that sort of technology capabilities. We can continue to invest in quality of life initiatives that make Sioux Falls an attractive place to live and work, and also a place that wants to retain our college graduates. So creating a downtown that invests in culture, in entertainment, in arts, and making Sioux Falls competitive with some of the other markets that we sometimes will lose workers to, will lose young people to. We want to reverse that trend. And then the fourth is around engaging people. And what we mean by that is how can we engage with the community in a way we haven't in the past? Engage with our growing immigrant population, the growing diverse population in our city. But secondly, how can we also better engage the employees of the city in a way we haven't tapped into them before? And so looking at employee engagement scores, looking at investing in the next generation of leaderships within the city. We're going to be launching next year a leadership initiative where we're going to be investing substantially in a small number of employees who have the opportunity to be the next generation leader. When directors leave, when managers move on, or when managers move out, any business has to always be thinking about who is the next person to fill this seat. And so empowering our city employees and growing them and grooming them is going to be really important because we're going to have some changes in the next several years. I mean, it just happens. We have a lot of great employees that are eligible for retirement, and they're in key leadership positions in our city. And what are we doing to prepare ourselves for when that happens? So the employee, engaging people portion of this will fall around that. And then the two overarching pieces around this circle then, you see our foundational growth and innovation. This is important because all of these things must happen under the umbrella of foundational growth. What do we mean by foundational growth? Investing in the core tenets of government, in infrastructure, in water reclamation expansion, in public safety training centers, in things that simply have to happen to keep our city moving forward. And doing so in a way that encourages innovation. So each of these strategies, how are we looking at new ways to solve old problems? It's why you saw recently a change where we launched a Department of Innovation and Technology. As an example, workforce, public transit. Public transit is a challenge in our city. Public transit is a workforce issue. Public transit falls into accessible housing. Public transit in some instances could fall into safety and health. How are we more innovatively solving that challenge than we've done in the past? That can involve putting together what we call innovation teams. Someone from Public Works, someone from Streets, someone from HR, someone from Community Health, cross-functional, cross-collaborational innovation teams to solve these challenges we have as a city, instead of saying, well, that's the public transit's team. They need to solve that challenge. It's not. It's the city's challenge. We got smart people across the breadth of the city to help solve these challenges. So my team knows, the director team knows, and now all the employees know after this morning that going forward, they're going to be hearing the concept of One Sioux Falls a lot, and they're going to know that if they can put data and metrics and measurability to the initiatives they want to move ahead and tie them into one of these, it's going to be a home run, because this is what the public says we need to focus on. This is what the employees say we need to focus on. And so the first 100 days of the administration is honeymoon period. People want to know, what did you get done in the first 100 days? And you get a little bit of grace. And now people want to know, okay, that was good. What's the next several years look like? And what is your focus going to be? And our administration's focus is going to be around these core initiatives for the city.